Hi, I'm Timmy Hayes. This is my channel. Welcome. It's mainly a music channel. I post videos like this occasionally, vlog videos, whatever. In my last couple videos, I talked about like sex and love and different kinds of stuff, and it's kind of funny. Like I went back and I watched them, and like my thought processes are so scattered sometimes, and they fluctuate. And things that I was sure of yesterday, I'm not so sure of today, or I feel differently about. And I suppose I'm not sure why, but these days I find myself, I think about death a lot. I think about how I want to spend my life here, because we are in limited forms. We're the individuals that we are for a certain amount of time. We can call it a long time or a short time, it doesn't matter. It's a lifetime, right? Even if you are born and die right away, that's still a lifetime. It's a very short lifetime comparatively to others, generally speaking, whatever the average lifespan is. So I'm 27 years old. I'll be 28, you know, pretty soon, in a few months. And that's over a quarter of a century. To me, I feel like I've lived a very long time. It's strange. My generation, we went through our developmental years, puberty, in a time of great change. And whenever I look up the ages of the generations, like millennials or boomers, whatever, Gen Z, I'm at like the bottom of millennials and the top of Gen Z. I'm like right on the border. So things are very strange in my perception of the world, and everything feels like it's in flux, and the moments keep coming, and I feel so uncertain of anything, really. Um, I talked about love and shit last time, but I'm 27, and a very small portion of my life has been dedicated to the real, actual pursuit of love, or the maintenance of love. That is to say, like, if I combine the total amount of time I've spent in relationships, or perhaps being infatuated with someone, it would amount to less than 5 years. Then we can talk about, there was a period in my life where I would get really hung up on someone. I still do. Like, if I have strong feelings for someone, it takes me, even if there's, like, there was someone not long ago that I got hung up on. Things didn't work out. But, we were never actually together, but it still took time, like about a month, to really start feeling over it. I'm not sure why that is. The same thing happened when I was a teenager. I was really into someone, and it took me years, even though we never had a romantic relationship. What it probably is I fantasized about like the fulfillment of romantic aspirations with them. That is to say, like, since we're young, we're bombarded with love stories, love songs, like this idea of this perfect, Disney movies, old time songs, like, boy meets girl. It's problematic at first, things happen, but they get together in the end, and they live happily ever after. Once upon a time, blah blah blah, happily ever after. And that worked for, our parents' generation and the generations before, because there weren't as many options. But my generation, like, during puberty, we grew up with porn. That's really like unlimited access to porn. And, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it had an effect on the general psyche of my generation. Sexuality is so raw and open now. It's totally different than what it used to be. There's so much. It's overwhelming to think about how much fucking porn there is in the world, and it's immediately accessible in your pocket at all times. You can watch people fuck in all kinds of ways. It's crazy. Like, and taboo sex, and things like interracial sex, things that were there's a word, misogyny, miscegenation. It was actually illegal to portray interracial romantic relationships in Hollywood during the golden age of Hollywood in the 30s, or pre 30s, maybe during the 30s as well. That was part of the Hays Code, when Hollywood was seen as corrupt, and they wanted to revamp the image, so they brought in this guy. His last name was Hayes, and he made this code. So that's why a lot of Hollywood movies have happy endings, because one of the requirements was that good should prevail over evil. So that's why the whole happy ending thing became like a requirement, and then it was a stayover from that period. So these days I suppose I feel very tired of trying to force things to happen. Like, as a kid, or I always held on to this kind of belief, like, if I made good art, if I made good music and I put it out there, interesting, good music, like, there would be a point where I became famous, and money and all that, like, all the fucking trappings of fame would come with that. And the world isn't so simple. Like, there's things that we don't consider, like connection. Billie Eilish is a great example. And, I'm not saying, there's some people who call her an industry plant or whatever. I don't think that. I do think she's a good singer, and her brother Phineas O'Connell are talented and creative artists. I do believe that, and I like their music and their artistic endeavors. But I mean, how old was she? Like 15 or 16 when her debut song or album came out on Spotify, and it topped the charts right away. Like, okay, when I was that age, the average person at that age, like, we don't have access to those kind of things, right? Like, I didn't even have access to, like, a computer for creative purposes until I was that age. So I can explore, like, using a DAW to create music. That's not to say I was very fortunate in that my parents, they, kind of the Asian stereotype, like violin and piano at an early age. So I'm fortunate in that aspect. But, I read about her and her brother, Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell, and on Wikipedia. And, they had parents who were involved in the music industry, and they were taught these things at an early age. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying you should use your connections and things like that. But it's something to be aware about. Like, the Princess Frog, that Disney movie, it was a big deal because it was, a cartoon, when cartoon movies are kind of falling out of popularity. And it had the first black Disney princess, right? A big thing that stayed with me through that movie is, like, she pushes herself. She's like, with enough hard work, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna, blah blah blah. Like, she was working in a restaurant and would just believe in her integrity and stuff. And then the movie kind of shows, like, it's not just about that. It's also about luck. Like, you got to be lucky. So there are pathways in this world that are so intricate and dug in deep over eons, that are not fathomable to our current positions. That is to say, royalty, power, and those things. Like, each of us are in a certain, we are pinpoints on a map, an evolutionary map from the beginning of all life and the conception of the universe itself. We explode out from the initial particle and we clump together into hydrogen and carbon and all the elements of the universe and star stuff, and over eons and eons we've become what we are. So this is a bit of a fatalist mindset. We are each ruled by the hands of fate. So these days I try to listen to fate. I mean, I always have. We can't escape fate. But I suppose I'm more acutely aware of what is happening in terms of that. And the funny thing is, I feel rather empty now, devoid of yearning, I suppose. That's not to say, like, in a depressing sense, like I'm numb or something like that. That's not what I mean, because I have wants and desires and needs. But I suppose I feel I've given up on my dreams. And I know that sounds depressing or sad, but really it's freeing. I had this vision of like a queenly woman in my life to come and fix my life and fulfill me in some kind of magical way, and I realized that these are like tricks that my mind has been playing on me for many reasons, and letting that dream die is kind of sad, because I held out hopes for so long of great love, and then the grandiose dream of fame and recognition and things like that. And it's so freeing to let it go and say, like, hey, it doesn't matter what happens in terms of love or art. I am me, and I'm going to continue living the way I am and pursuing my everyday happiness. And it can be more than one day. If I meet someone who seems good during the time, or if an opportunity to reach a wider audience or make money off music presents itself, these are all things that can contribute to my everyday daily happiness. But to try to base fulfillment of the self on a fantasy only leads to misery. So if you say, I cannot live a happy life unless I have the one, the love of my life, then you're not going to be happy, because unfortunately you meet a really attractive, beautiful person who seems cool and nice, and you're just not compatible. Like that happens all the time, and it's just shit happens, man. Like, you gotta learn to, I know it sounds cliche, but find happiness within yourself. Or rather, find the willingness to pursue happiness despite things not going the way you imagined or thought you wanted them to be. So I wish for a person that I can have fun with, and like, it's a great joy to find someone that you're emotionally, sexually compatible with, and go on adventures with them and support one another. It's a beautiful feeling to be in love. I think most of us want something like that, and to be seen by a person, really seen by a person. It's a uplifting feeling. And in terms of art and music, yeah, there's a part of me that wants all the, of course I want to be rich, right? that it would allow me to do more, like in my personal life as well as in music and art. Like I could buy better equipment. I could, make connections with people who are more well versed in music. Better studio engineers who could help me make better music. You know, be able to throw big concerts and all that. And that's a dream of mine. Like I do love performing. It would be great to be able to get on a big ass stage and go on tour and stuff. That's something I wish I could experience. But my happiness is not based on that. I mean, I'm going to keep doing what I do regardless. I mean, nowadays it's so easy to make music. You can just get on a computer and bloop, 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 bloop. But I do, like, these days, I wish I was more well known because I feel that I am contributing artistically to the greater scene of art and music and poetry and things like that. Me, as someone who appreciates art and music, if I was not, or hell, even the way I am, like if there was, and I wasn't me, if there was someone, if there was someone like me out there, I would want to know about it because it's interesting and I put a lot into a lot of symbolism and a lot of meaning into my work. I would want to know about it. It's like, and I know this sounds haughty to compare myself to someone like David Bowie, who's a giant of the music field, but if you look at his work and how diverse it is, like I'm a genre bouncer as well. Like I think David Bowie would want to know about my music and the stuff I'm doing. If he was still alive, I would have loved to work with David Bowie. I feel like we could have made cool stuff together. He was a extremely creative person. That's why I love his music. Being empty is good, or letting false dreams and false hopes die is good. Embracing emptiness in terms of what tomorrow may bring leaves room for tomorrow to fulfill your expectations in a way that you could not imagine it to. Because if it's already full of false hopes and false dreams, whatever tomorrow brings is not going to match what you had envisioned. And it's just going to lead to disappointment and misery. So I guess that's the overall point of what I'm trying to say today is take life as it comes and things are going to be okay. Yep, so thanks for listening. Peace out.